What's good, Josh? I'm Kyle. Welcome back to my channel. Make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so I really appreciate it if you subscribe. And today we're going to be talking about the OKC Thunder and just how I think they can definitely make the playoffs next year, and just how I think their team is set up really good for now and the future. And when you're talking about OKC, you have to, begin the conversation with talking about Mr. First Team himself, Mr. Team Canada himself, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA, one of the best players in the NBA, probably a top 10 player right now, if I'm not mistaken. Just a really, really great driver, one of the best drivers in the NBA. Not only one of the best drivers in the NBA, one of the best drivers in league history. He uses change of pace a lot to get to the rim. Really strong handle, just a really, really crafty guard. And he just gets downhill whenever he wants. He doesn't need a screen, but he can use screens. He can get, downhill through set plays. He can get, in isolation. He's really good at shooting the mid-range shot. His three-point shot is not that great, but I feel like he doesn't need to rely on an outside shot because nobody can really stop him one-on-one from getting to the basket. And because nobody can stop him from getting to the basket one-on-one, that creates a lot of opportunities for his teammates. Him getting downhill, the defense has to collapse on him, so he can just fire it out to shooters and, fire it out to cutters, like that. So I just feel like although he's not a super-duper strong passer, and I feel like if he was to become a better passer, better playmaker, then that would just make him even closer. That would make him even better as an NBA player. But the way he is right now is really, really good because even though he's not a super strong passer, he gets downhill, the defense has to collapse, he can spray it out to shooters, he can spray it out to Isaiah Joe, who's 40%, he can spray it out to Jalen Williams, he can spray it out to Josh Giddey, who's not a super strong shooter, but I feel like can knock down threes. He can just spray it out all over the place, hopefully to Chet Holmgren this season, but he can just spray it out, all over the court, pause. And Shai is just really, really nice like that. And I feel like OKC has done a really nice job of getting him more ball handlers around him, especially this season. Because last season we saw the emergence of the rookie Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams, a really, really crafty player to be a rookie. I did a breakdown video on him personally. You can check that out on my channel. But Jalen Williams is also good at getting to the rim. He is not super fast, but I feel like he knows when to slow down to be able to slip by guys. He has a really strong handle, can put together moves really greatly. And I just really like his game because his game is really patient. I feel like he has a really patient game. You can't really rush Jalen Williams, the one that was almost rookie of the year. Not the other one who was like a big man, but you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Jalen Williams, really strong rookie season, averaged about 14 points per game last year. Shai averaged 31.4, so he's going to get even more attention next season to get guys like Jalen Williams opportunities, to get guys like Josh Giddey opportunities, get guys like Lou Dort, Kemish Williams, all kinds of guys. And then they added this rookie, this guy, Cason Wallace. I really like this Cason Wallace guy because he's a really, really strong defender, really strong point of attack defender, really strong at just being in the passing lanes, really good, team defender. And I feel like that's what OKC was really missing in the backcourt because it's really just Lou Dort who's like, the premier defensive guy for OKC, and I feel like they needed another guy, even if it's off the bench, just more defense in the backcourt, and I feel like Cason Wallace can, fit the bill with that. Cason is also a pretty solid finisher, so he's going to be able to benefit, from being in lineups with Josh Giddey, who can find him open on cuts and whatnot, and with Shai, who can create, little dents in the defense, tilt the defense for him, and allow Cason Wallace, avenues to get to the rim. But Josh Giddey is a guy who also needs to take a leap for OKC to do as good as I think they can. Last year, you have 16 points. You have 6.2 assists last year as well. 16 points is really good for him, and I feel like he has a really strong handle. He's just a really, heads-up kind of player, really strong at just finding, seams in the defense. And he can just, he's really, really crafty. He has a lot of pivot move finishes. He has a little floater game that he can get to. Just really, really nice stuff from Josh Giddey last season. But I do want to see him shoot better from three, obviously. Shot 32% last season. So you just hope that things, go better for him in that regard. But I feel like, for it to be just his second season, it was a really strong season by him. And I feel like, as Shai gets better and as Josh Giddey develops, they're going to have two top-tier playmakers, and that's going to open things up for a lot of the other guys. And I feel like, with Chet Holmgren being out last season, that kind of left them with a void at the 5 spot. They were trying, all kinds of different things, at the 5 spot. They were trying Jalen Williams at the 5 spot, just trying all different kinds of guys. And I feel like they didn't have that proper, defensive presence at the 5 spot. Chet Holmgren, 7 feet, whatever tall, super tall, very long arms, really strong, rim protector, is really a menace when it comes to that. And he's also somebody who can juice the offense a little bit more, have a guy like, unlike Poku, I'm not saying Poku is the worst player in the world, but Chet can do a lot more than Poku could. especially on both ends of the court. He can defend really well, and he can score on his own, take the ball, get it off the glass, coast to coast, go in transition, get to the rim by himself. So I just think adding a guy like Chet to this team after they just won 40 games last season is going to, bode really well for this team. And, they got shooters. Isaiah Joe shot 40% from 3. Trey Mann is a guy that I kind of like. I just like Trey Mann because I think when it comes to creation, he has a lot of the moves necessary to, create space and get to the rim. He's extremely athletic. If you've seen any highlights of him, you know that he's extremely athletic and can do a lot of things with the ball in his hand. And I just feel like he needs to take a leap as far as, shooting comes. He shot 31% from 3 last year, 39% from the field. So obviously the efficiency is a worry, but I feel like if he can just work on his game, he has the moves. He just needs to work on, the finishing, the shot selection and all that. But I think the blueprint is there for him to, be a successful player. And, I just feel like this OKC team, they just have a lot of the components of, that young up-and-coming team. But they might be young and up-and-coming, but they have a lot of the components of the better teams. They have multiple creators, multiple people who can pass. And I feel like with them getting Chet to come back from injury, he's going to be that final piece that they needed, the final piece, at the center spot to be able to defend and really help out on defense. Because really the best defender in the lineup is most likely, obviously Lu Dort. Lu Dort, great defender, really strong point of attack defender, really strong, it just takes a lot of bumps, really great guy in that regard. Obviously, you want him to shoot better than 33% from 3, but I feel like for him, 33% is not the end of the world. But it's just when he decides, like, oh, it's time for me to create, it's time for me to get to the rim, he can be a little wild at times. So it would be nice for him to kind of reel it in a little bit. But I feel like Lu Dort, does a great job at what he does. Just a really strong defender. And, you got guys like the other Jalen Williams. I feel like he was pretty solid this season because he, shot 40% from 3, 2.3 threes per game. I feel like that's really strong volume for a guy like him. And, he takes a lot of charges, so he's willing to sacrifice his body on the defensive end. So I feel like off the bench next season, or even maybe starting at the 4 spot, he's going to be a really strong player for them as, a pick and pop option, a pick and roll option. I just feel like he's going to add a lot of, integrity, toughness to the team. So I just feel like OKC just has the proper components of a team that's going to, be able to take the next leap. Because when you have a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a bona fide superstar, and then you have guys who can create off of his gravity and just use his, defensive attention to get things going for themselves, I think that's going to bode really well for this team. And then they just had, some solid guys that they took flyers on. I think Victor Oladipo is on the team. Who knows if he's ready at any point in the season, but that might be a guy who can, be a bench piece later on in the future. And then they got guys like JRE, they got Aaron Wiggins, who are fine off the bench guys, bigger guys. I feel like they just have a lot of, guys who are just cool. But I feel like the starters and just like the 7th and 6th, 7th, 8th man, I feel like they have a strong enough team to be able to knock on the door of the playoffs and even beyond that, because they won 40 games last year. And Shai missed a good chunk of those, and a lot. Which when you have a best player missing a lot of games and you're still able to win 40 games, I feel like the next step is maybe like 49 wins, 50 wins, because they have more experience now. Shai is gonna come back a little better. Josh Giddey is most likely gonna improve if you've been watching him in FIBA. Jalen Williams, he's been in the lab a lot, so he's gonna improve. So I just feel like they have all the pieces there to be able to make a nice playoff run. I'm not saying they're going to win a round in the playoffs, but I'm saying I think they can maybe be a top 5 seed if things go their way. But I just really believe in this OKC team. And now I want to talk about the future of this team because they have a lot of young talent. They have a lot of picks. We all know that Sam Presti loves his draft picks. And I feel like with all of these, disgruntled stars, Harden, maybe Embiid in the future, Giannis is having talks of, I might not re-sign in Milwaukee. I feel like they're in a rare spot where their team is very young, but they still are up and coming. But they have a lot of young talent and a lot of young picks, so that if the right star at the right time decides to axe out, they can just push all their chips to the middle of the table and then pair SGA up with a big superstar. They have a lot of trade pieces. They have Jalen Williams, they got Josh Giddey, they got Chet Holmgren, and they have a boatload of draft picks. So I feel like OKC is built really well for now and the future. They have a path where they just keep everybody they have right now, and then they can build a contender like this. or they can push their chips to the table and, you know, trade for a guy like Giannis, trade for a guy like Embiid, and still have a bona fide superstar like SGA, and then some of the, you know, lesser role players on the team. But I just feel like they have a really, they're one of the rare teams that have a path to just staying put and trading for a guy. So I just really like their tier. I really like the way they're built. They have, you know, some strong front court defenders. They finally have some strong backcourt defenders. They have a bunch of creation, a bunch of scoring, and I just really like the, you know, the direction that this OKC team is taking. So if you stayed in this video, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.